Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Roll call: Judy Hall, Bernadette Cosman, Carmen Larimar, Cheryl Ray, Zipporah Clark Baldwin present. We now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now if we just have a moment for silence, please. Now open the meeting for adoption of the minutes. We will now consider the minutes from February 21st, 2022, meeting of the Appearance Commission. Are there any corrections? If there aren't any, I move to have a motion made to accept and approve the minutes as presented. Let's have a motion. Motion?
With somebody like, there we go.
Yes. Is there a second? Thank you. The minutes have been, a motion has been made to approve the minutes as submitted, and they are approved. All in favor say aye. Nay? If there are none, then we will carry the minutes and accept them. We will move on to tonight's items of discussion. I will ask Mr. West, he will present these items.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ms. Clark Baldwin. So as I mentioned, it was of staff's decision and admin decision to remove the appointment of the officers off of the agenda tonight due to the upcoming combination coming April 1st with the Appearance Commission and the Tree Board. It's better to go ahead and wait until that change occurs, so we won't have to go through the process over again, having to make a new one whenever the board's combined, because right now we're as the Appearance Commission, but come next month, it's going to be a combined board and a next decision would have to be made. So it's taking a little bit of the two-step process out and just simplifying and doing it all next month when we're all combined and all under one new board. So we'll leave it at that. I hope nobody has any issues with that, as it seemed to be one of the general comments coming from administration that we hold off on this. And so I will now open the floor for Miss Brandy. She's coming on behalf of the Rec Department to speak a little bit about the Arbor Day presentation coming up this next month for the Arbor Month here in the city of Graham. So Brandy, if you don't mind, you can go ahead and start if you'd like. If you'd like to.
All right, so I've spoken with several of you and we've been doing some planning when it was the tree board, but to get everyone on the same page, I'm not sure how long Graham has been doing events for Arbor Day. Last year was the 40th anniversary of Graham being a Tree City, USA. So we went big last year and had several different events in downtown and in the parks for folks to participate in, to bring awareness about the importance of trees and the types of trees we're considering plantings in their yard and landscape. So this year, we're going to bring back the Tree Discovery Seek and Find. Last year, we did it in different parks, but this year, we're going to keep it at one location at Bill Cook Park. And with that event, we'll have 8 trees that'll be wrapped in a green ribbon that park visitors will have to seek out. And when they find the tree, there'll be a card on it, which will have the tree identification. They'll record those and then they'll submit those 8 trees through a Google Doc on our website. And at the end of the month, we will have 3 gift certificates, 3 $20 gift certificates from Living Landscapes for those winners. And this event is for all ages. So kids, parents can go out into the park and seek out the trees, and hopefully they learn a little bit about those trees. And we'll try to pick out native trees for that experience. And we'll announce that winner at our Arbor Day tree planting, and I'll get to that one in a minute. The Alamance County Public Libraries will also participate with an Arbor Day make and take. They're pipe cleaner trees that they can pick up craft kits at the library the week of Arbor Day. So one more way to get the community involved. They can go pick up books about trees and then also have an art and craft project. We will have an Arbor Day poster contest. Carmen is kind of leading that activity up, but we're going to have different locations where folks can go pick up a poster template. It'll have the rules on it. We'll have 4 different age categories. And Carmen's also reached out to local businesses for prizes for the poster contest. So that'll take place April 1st through the 15th. And then the board will be able to determine those winners for the contest. And we'll announce those winners at our tree planting as well. Downtown development will have an Arbor Day rock hunt. If you've seen the kindness rocks, on the back, there's usually like a hashtag. It'll probably be like Arbor Day and Graham. It's hashtag Arbor Day and Graham's the hashtag for the month. But folks will seek out 5 rocks located in 5 different locations through downtown, and they'll be able to present those once they find them for another chance to win prizes. And then our big celebration is going to be a tree planting ceremony on Friday, April 29th. That is Arbor Day at Graham Regional Park. Our property maintenance superintendent, Tim Covington, will be planting a tree. It'll be in a location as soon as you enter the park, you will see that tree, and hopefully we'll have some educational information or a plaque that shows the significance of that tree. We have also secured 100 free tree seedlings from the Alamance County Soil and Water Conservation District. They're going to donate those for the event, and we'll also have the park and play at the event where kids will have opportunity to get out and play. And hopefully we can have some educational activities to go along with hula hoops and cornhole and Connect Four. Just get the community engaged with our program. But those are the different activities that we have planned for Arbor Month here in Graham, and we will be showcasing those activities on our website, through social media on the Graham Recreation and Parks page, as well as the City of Graham page, hopefully highlighting you as well on the website, and then putting out different education pieces from pruning your trees, planting native trees, and then also Tim Covington did a video last year about how to plant a tree. And we also had Rhett Davis narrate and a drone video that flew over one of our parks. So hopefully we can showcase that again. So a lot of different ways to educate the community, the importance of native trees, and then just engaging folks to come out and experience our parks and downtown area. Do you have any questions?
Oh,
The biggest thing, like who of us can attend is one thing that we
2 o'clock on the April 29th
And
at Graham Regional.
we have spoken, myself, Mary, and Tim. They have reached out to the North Carolina Forest Service, so that is an update, and they can only come at 10 on that Friday. So we're going to have to shift our event time in order for the North Carolina Forest Service to attend the tree planting as well.
So it'll be at 10 now.
And that's something new. I think it was Friday, maybe,
Relatively.
that came up.
And I went to Elon's Arbor Day event on Saturday. I went and checked it out. And they had Western Alamance High School doing a lot of this. And I thought we could reach out to Southern Alamance. I think the park and play stuff is plenty, but I thought it was smart how they had high school clubs like FFA was like handing out bracelets.
Yeah, it's a great goal as to what Elon offered for Graham right now, because we did call it the Arbor Day and Graham celebration, but it's not quite to the celebration point yet. So it's the Arbor Day and Graham tree planting event, but it could definitely, depending on the response we get, turn into a celebration where we do have lots of education booths and interactive activities and making it a larger event, and maybe not just about trees, but about landscaping and doing it like environmentally friendly when you're planning your landscape. So there's a lot of resources in our county that we could definitely bring out. And if Elon continues to do theirs in March, hopefully there wouldn't be any conflicts if we stayed with April's Arbor Day.
And they have the kids painting outside. That's what my daughter did. It was so cute. It was called like pieces.
Yeah,
But I had not even thought about high school.
yeah.
Anything else from Ms. Brandy?
Yeah, she said he got 100 trees, because I had written down 50, so he was able to get 100.
Well, I know Tim was trying to find trees, and the Alamance County Soil and Water Conservation District, they just had a tree sale. So I reached out to him like, hey, like what is your like, where are you getting your trees from? Because we may need to get some. And he's like, well, we've got some trees if you need them. I was like, yeah, we'll take them.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to donate 100, I think they're Eastern cedars for the event. So if Tim's able to get more, and we have 150 people, that would be great.
He told me this morning, whenever you asked, I think he said something about like 50. He was able to get 50 or something. I don't know if that's tied in with what you're speaking about, but again, yeah, kind of different topic at least. That's just what I was told this morning. I was just bringing it up tonight.
So the announcement that I sent, so we need to change it. Do you want me to change it, resend it to you? Or are you okay with it, changing it yourself? The ones for the time and the how many trees? Because I had 50 and then I had the time at 2.
Yes, I've updated that.
Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
I grabbed your press release information and I tweaked it with some of the
Very good.
new information.
So who's going to be filming this? What's going on down there?
So I'm meeting with Jeff Wilson this week. He's going to show me how to set up the YouTube and kind of like how we do our city council meetings. And hopefully we can live stream from the event.
Okay.
So if folks can't be there, they can see it happen, and then the video will be uploaded onto our YouTube. So people can go and see it anytime.
John Denver wrote a song, and it's called Plant a Tree. And have you ever heard it before?
I don't know. I'll have
It's
to look
really
it up.
good, and it's for Arbor Day. It is. This is for Arbor Day. So I was thinking in mind, whoever, if we're going to do live streaming or we're going to video it, if we could play that while they're planting the tree, because it's kind of awkward. It's kind of silent, when you're doing all that. So what do you all think of that?
Well, I will say that,
Rights to it, I guess.
You would have to, I don't know if you apply for rights, or you'd have to maybe put prior to the streaming that the songs played here, we don't have the rights. It's something you
Yeah.
have to do.
I don't know. I just saw it on like
It's something you
on
have to do
YouTube or
when you
something
use
myself. I
music.
just saw.
I will say, the sake that I asked Brandy to come in here and speak about the Arbor Day event is for, the upcoming combination piece. And I think, with the Appearance Commission Tree Board, we see this Arbor Day event as one of the combined things that's going to be happening continuously in the future. And I just wanted her to get you all that may not know or have heard a little bit about the tree board to kind of see what goes into and what happens during the Arbor month, and more or less, get you all versed for future instances and, running these events and helping out with these events. I really wasn't planning to have much discussion outside of what Brandy was going to talk about. It was just much to get you all versed, like I said, kind of for the upcoming combination and a lot of the other stuff coming in the future and having your hand in this event. So in regards to logistics and things along those lines, I think we'll keep it a little bit outside, at least in the tree board forum, since this is an Appearance Commission meeting right now. I'm just trying to make sure we're abiding by all the different open meeting laws and things along those lines. So I'll kind of leave it at that.
What would be the commitment for someone to volunteer that day? What would be the time commitment? How long would you, or just represent, I guess, not even volunteer?
So for the tree planting, we had planned on it being 2 hours. Tree planting would begin promptly at 10. So that would be the first thing. I believe y'all are putting together like a schedule for the program, for the ceremony. But that would be the first piece. And then passing out the tree samplings throughout the 2 hours, having the park and play open for 2 hours, just talking with the community. So the biggest piece is going to be there at the tree plant and having you guys present. And then if you wanted to stay and interact with the community, it'd be great to have you there for those 2 hours from 10 to 12.
Anything else from Ms. Brandon?
And then those bios, are we sending a picture of us too?
At- As far as I know, you're sending a photo of yourselves and tell us about yourself. And then that information will be on the website, and I believe Mary was sharing it on the city Facebook as well. Whatever's the easiest for you guys.
I think Mary had mentioned last week that she would just much rather if everything comes to her and then she piece it together and get it to the administrative staff.
Go with what Mary said.
Well, Brandy, thank you so much for coming and speaking
Yes.
about this event. I think on behalf of, staff at least, it's definitely something interesting to see an event like this kind of kick up and take a full month to kind of celebrate the Arbor Day and things along those lines. And we definitely look forward to the event this year and definitely in the future and having our hand in it as much as we can. And like I said, I do appreciate you coming up here and getting those understanding about what could be coming in the future. So I appreciate it a lot.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Brandon.
All right, wonderful. All right, so now we'll move on to agenda item 5C. Ms. Judy Hall provided me with some text amendments to the code of the ordinance and wanted to open up a little bit of discussion on what she presented and kind of have an open discussion in regards to it, kind of feel around, see if there's anything that needs to be tweaked or what else before I present it to anybody else. So it's in your agenda packet. I got it pulled up right here. First one that's
Yeah, it looks
on the
good.
list is making a change that all owners are responsible to remove debris and grass clippings from sidewalks. And the second one is no person shall place or allow to remain to the elements, whether outdoors or within an enclosed porch or similar area, any chairs, sofas, bed, tables, or similar furniture which is not designated and intended for outdoor use and which is thereby readily susceptible to deterioration. And then third, we'll talk about the growth of grass and weeds of noxious vegetation. The request is to change those from 12 inches high to 18 inches high. So that's what I was proposed with, and I was asked to bring this in front of you all for further discussion. So I'll open it up to you all. If you have any questions for me in regards to it, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Has legal looked at any of this yet?
No, ma'am. I'll provide that's why I wanted to get any information from you all prior to sending it over to anybody before I'd make any proposals to admin or any other staff. Because I think this would all fall inside of the code of ordinance rather than our development ordinance. And there's additional steps outside of, with an amendment to the code or the development ordinance, we have to send it in from the planning board and everything else. But I think the code of ordinance follows a different little bit procedure. But, from whatever changes we make to this, and I'll definitely run it through the folks in our legal department to make sure they look over it. But I just wanted to open it up for discussion with you all.
What about the
Is-
streets for the grass clippings? Can they blow it in the street?
Well, no, because whenever it gets blown into the street, it gets into the stormwater drains and that messes up the stormwater drains. So I don't think it mentions anything about removing and pushing it into the street. It's just making sure it's not on the sidewalk. So whether that's blowing it back into their yard, sweeping it up and
But is
collecting
there
it.
already an ordinance for the street, like not blowing it into the street?
Yes, there is something for not blowing it into the street. It falls under like stormwater stuff and it's not specific to Oh, well, it's more specific to debris, but grass clippings could be considered something of debris themselves. But it is kind of somewhat in place inside the stormwater and a little bit in the nuisance area as well. But that's about all I got on that.
Like Public Works would enforce it or?
It depends. If it falls under the nuisance category, then the code enforcement officer would deal with it. When it gets into stormwater concerns, then yeah, Public Works and Engineering will have to file a letter, and then that will be sent out from the code enforcement officer. So it all goes through the inspections and Miss Jenny up there who does the code enforcement. Anything else? Ms. Cheryl?
Yeah. So not my own issue, but on an HOA issue, a lot of these things are pieces that HOAs have tried to control before.
Yes, ma'am.
And there are lots of legality pieces that control your ability to control them. So I do know, like for the zoning piece, I think, code enforcement here with Graham is already, you have one employee that goes out there and does that. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. And I think Aaron helps out with Miss Judy, or not Miss Judy, but Miss Jenny a lot. Kind of riding out with her and looking at pieces of property and things along those
Okay.
lines. So they kind of work together, and I'll help out as much as I can with her as well. But yeah.
I just want, I definitely get the intent of this. I'm just worried at what level of additional responsibility and work that's going to be on the one employee.
For sure.
Definitely obnoxious, the weeds piece, 18 inches. And that's definitely something you see on like vacant lots mostly, or builder lots. You see that where they don't really tend to those quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
So that's a concern. So I 100% think if that's something we can look at, I definitely do that. The removing of debris and grass clippings from sidewalks, I'm sure there's going to be some massage to that, because just in its intent there, I don't think that's going to meet mustard with a legal counsel.
Yeah.
And then the second one, I do worry. So I think of, like a rocking chair on a front porch, right? Sometimes those do become weathered. Come look at my porch. I just wonder if we're getting too specific. And I did look, it says something about like just reading Raleigh, for instance, right? It talks about the storage of refrigerators, appliances, or other household furniture on lots. And it actually, they do have dense growth of tall weeds or grass that is over 8 inches in height. So they actually are a little bit more strict on that. So
So is Winston. Winston is
Inches.
8 too.
Yeah,
8
where I came
inches.
from, it was also 8. 18 is really high, and
Yeah.
how the 18 number came about. But one thing I will, reiterate with a lot of these, and this is brought up in many times when you request, change for whether you're looking for rezonings or you're looking for text amendments, is that, this runs specifically within the full city limits of Graham as well. So, if it meets one property, it meets all of them. So that's the big thing that you have to also take into account, I guess, whenever it's presented, is that they will be taking that outlook of, you have to take into the full account of everybody when it comes to a lot of this stuff. But I foresee not much of any issue associated with it. I'm actually trying to go through the code of ordinance right now and see if there's anything associated with the grass clippings at least. Because I think that's the only one that may be present in regards to the sidewalk stuff. Let's see.
I was told that they don't have any ordinance for the clippings.
Let's see.
And
On
and it
sidewalks.
does become an issue because they cover it up, and then you have to walk through it. Dogs have to walk to it gets in the
So-
stormwater.
Yeah, we
It
might
gets
not
to
have
us.
something associated with like the sidewalk in general, but they have like prohibited discharge standards that don't allow for shavings to go into not the sidewalk, but like in the street into the storm drains. But like you said, there's nothing in regards to strictly just the sidewalk. There's nothing in the ordinance that says you have to remove your grass clippings from the sidewalk, it just says you're not allowed to discharge them into the street because that's when they get into the storm drain, which, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, the sidewalks are city right of way. So technically those could be considered quote unquote city streets being discharged onto city property, being in that area. So it could lead to that storm water running through the sidewalk and pushing it into the storm drain. But something, I guess, a little more definite per se would definitely be of some assistance. So you have something to kind of go off of, rather than just saying, this is prohibited discharge in the area, rather than, saying you can't have it on the sidewalk. I don't know exactly how frequent this happens.
In my neighborhood, it happens every
Yeah.
time they
But,
mow.
it definitely drives me nuts. I see the same thing too. But people that don't
Same
do,
issue where over in her area.
but if people don't do edging and weeding either, then the weeds are going over the sidewalk. So it's
Yeah.
almost the same appearance
Keeping it
situation.
debris,
Yeah. So from Winston, so you looked at Winston and some
I
other.
looked at all everybody.
So can you tell us more about the research you did for?
Well, I did Winston, I did Durham, I did Greensboro. And let's see, of course, we don't want to go to Chapel Hill and all that. But nobody had 18 inches. And the problem with 18 inches is because see, these things are like when you're talking about an employee, being overburdened or whatever, they're normally, now correct me if I'm wrong, but they're normally complaint driven.
They are.
So they are. So there's not nobody going out just looking and checking and writing letters and all that. It's not that. It's if you get a complaint. And which is good because, and they may get busy when things get started for the season, people move in and they don't understand they have to do certain things. So that shouldn't be too much of an issue, And I do know that Aaron goes with Jenny sometimes, especially if there's something a little bit, if it's intense with the homeowner or whatever.
It can get that way sometimes.
It can. Now, as far as furniture is concerned, if you've got a weathered outdoor rocking chair, that's fine. It's just when people pull out sofas and chairs, kitchen tables and chairs, I mean, recliners, we've all seen it, and it does a lot to the neighborhood in not a good way.
I kind of agree with that too, though. But fortunately, I think if somebody wants a kitchen table, sit on their front porch.
Well, and I
Really being
did some
weathered?
research on that too, and they all had the same thing. All the
But
cities
is it
had the
really
same
being
thing written
weathered
just
if
like
it's a
that.
Covered porch
So-
or something like that.
At that point, you kind of leave it up to interpretation, and that comes back to staff is, based on what we read in the ordinance and in the situation we're presented, how do you act on this? Fortunately, we do have the sense to interpret our ordinances, in our own way, because we're the one that have to kind of back it up. So, if Jenny were to go out and see that somebody did have something like that in an enclosed porch and they had a table and chairs around it, she may make the interpretation that she doesn't see much wrong with it, whether it's a sofa sitting out there or a recliner sitting in the front yard. I think that's more or less the biggest thing. I think there's a clear, line that's drawn between what is appropriate outdoor furniture and what's not appropriate outdoor furniture. But then again, like I said, that comes up to whoever you ask and their interpretation of it. So, that lies on the person that's going out there and doing the work for it.
You get into rodents, you get into odors.
Yep.
You do. You get into a lot of things when you have furniture that's not made for outdoors.
Especially if it gets
More than
rainy.
what we can even imagine. If we don't do that in our own property, it's more than you can imagine. Mold, which is unhealthy.
Mhm.
How would this work for apartments? Because I know some apartments around here are like dumping grounds that I've seen, like mattresses or whatever, just like there at the entrance of the apartment.
That's I think that falls a little more into like the nuisance category. I don't know if it'd be specifically associated with this, whereas, you're illegally dumping things in an area that's not like supposed to be dumped at. So they file a complaint with the apartment owner or whoever, the landowner and whatnot, and they're, tasked to move that. And if they're not, then they get fined per day that it's still out there. So I think the safeguards are in place for instances like that.
Right.
I think this is more or less coming from a place of trying to prevent, I guess, I don't want to say unsightly, but that's kind of the word that comes from it. I mean, when you're riding down through a subdivision or even in a normal neighborhood or down the street, you don't really want to see a 15-year-old sofa that's been sitting out there for 2 summers and it's been rained on 37 times. You can't imagine. And people probably still sit on it. That's the crazy part.
They do.
Um,
I see them.
exactly. You know, don't broke was fixed, right? You know, but I mean, it comes. I'm not really, you know, I'll try and have as little opinion on it as I can because at the end of the day, you know, this is something that's driven from you all. So that's why I wanted to bring it and open it to y'all's attention because the only thing that I'll really do is look at it and tweak a word here and there that maybe, you know, match a little bit more. But I mean, language aside, I mean, I really don't have much of anything to say associated with it. I mean, there are areas that aren't really covered inside of the ordinance. I mean, the growth of grass and weeds in excess of 18 inches high. I just want to know the reasoning that they originally came up with where it was like, all right, 18 inches high is the ceiling. Like if it goes any more than that, that's ridiculous.
I'm just wondering, were they thinking about farmers or?
That's the only thing
You
that I
know,
can think of.
maybe
Well-
it came from some literature from the farmers ordinance and they just picked it up and didn't really study.
Well, see, that's the thing, because, you know, farmers would be under a different definition of grass, weeds, or other noxious
But
vegetation.
that's what I'm thinking, this must have come from, because who wants 18-inch in their
And
subdivision?
I'm telling you,
Well, I'll tell you, it does
You
happen.
know?
It has happened in ours and it does happen in ours. because
everywhere.
The homes go empty,
Mhm.
you know, for whatever reasons. By the time you get the city out, you have to wait till it gets 18 inches. So by the time you get the city out, they come back, they
Oh,
write letters,
24.
then they get in contact. That's what I'm saying. 24 is exactly where you are. So then you got, the neighbors have to deal with snakes,
Yeah,
bees,
Yep.
rats.
yeah.
And then it whips them and beats them when they walk by, you know, when they're trying to mow their own
Yeah.
grass. So it happens more than you think. It does.
I've seen it.
believe
I was the code enforcement officer in my hometown where I came from before, and you'd be very surprised. I mean, I've seen it in excess of 36 feet because people won't pay it. I mean, they'll just sit there and let it go and won't pay whatever fines and it just goes down as a lien on their taxes. I mean,
Wow.
it's people that don't really care much about their property, unfortunately.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean, that was my biggest thing. I was like, what was the standard whenever all this was wrote for, all right, 18 inches is going to be the cutoff, you know?
yeah.
And to your point,
really high.
you know, it is a process that takes a little bit of time, and the further that timeline draws on, people don't pay their stuff. It's just going to keep on getting higher and higher and higher and higher. You know, and it's going to continuously happen.
Okay, so back to what Carmen had mentioned earlier, you said it may fall up under the nuisance ordinance or what?
For
'Cause I do want
the,
to tap into that some because the mattresses and stuff like that,
she
old
was,
furniture being left out by dumpsters,
mhm.
where would you, that wouldn't go under here? You said
No,
it'd go
ma'am.
under nuisance.
That is,
I want to.
see, I think the difference here, well, I mean, you could almost see it as the same because as Ms. Judy alluded to, you know, it does calls for odor. It does
Mhm.
calls for concerns for health. I mean, and I guess it's separating that from actually just having it out there, you know, because some people will have a sofa and they'll move it in and out and in and out. But majority of the time it ends up being that it's just left out there and rained on. It's a
It's
little hot in
right.
here.
It does. It happens.
It does, I'm telling you. And but so, yeah, so but thank you. I'll be looking into nuisance then because we have excess stuff all the time and it's just seemed like it sits there and sits there and sits there and there should be a time limit. And if not, then they should be fined. And
Well-
then hopefully that'll put some fire under.
Like we were talking about, you know, the code enforcement officer position, you know, this complaint driven. So we don't have somebody, like you said, you know, riding out there looking at every single piece of property because there's too many square miles
following
for us to
them
sit
all.
out there and ride the streets every day. So, you know, the best thing to do is if you see something like that on the side of the road is to call up to the city and they'll get it moved. It might not be instant, but you know, at
Yeah.
least it's in the system because, you know, it could be 3 or 4 weeks before, you know, they're out riding around and they finally see it, you know, when you first saw it. So I think that's the biggest thing is understanding that a lot of these things that you probably see aren't being looked at by people in the city because it's impossible to send people out every day and to look at it with the limited amount of stuff that we have. And that's just, at that. So if you see something on the side of the road like that, that's more or less ones that's complaint driven that you could call in to up here at the city and kind of expedite that a little bit quicker rather than, if it is somebody that has a couch on their front lawn that they sit at and, hang out and drink and watch the cars go by. Yeah, I was a college student once. I mean, I've done it just,
You've done it.
it's a.
Guilty by association.
Yes, ma'am. And I mean, at the time, you don't understand, okay, people do have to drive past this and see it, and it doesn't look that great until you actually see it in person. So, yeah,
You grow up,
exactly.
yeah, you mature
I'm
a
still
little.
not there. So, but, like I said, I just wanted to kind of, Miss Judy presented these to me, and I wanted to at least bring them in front of you all to kind of get some opinion as she asked me to do. And if there's any more discussion, I mean, we can continue going on if y'all got anything else.
And I would also like to say, I don't think any of these are a hardship on homeowners.
Right,
I
yeah.
don't. Because you,
Hardship, but I still, the verbiage.
but
Yeah.
as far as the furniture, we have, that goes along with our garbage pickup.
Mhm.
And it's free. And if you have old furniture, you can put it on and they will pick it up. So it's not something that you're stuck with. If you live in the city, you can clean up your yard and it won't cost you anything because it's already there.
And I don't know how they could stipulate like the condition of it or something like that, because I have seen some very proper settings, with the table chair,
Well,
Like,
I
I
think
wonder about
that's
metal.
where you got a
Yeah,
little
we
bit of
have one.
leeway.
Yeah.
We do.
When you mention it's not designed or intended for outdoor use, I think there again is a pretty straight line where you separate one from the other, where you can pretty much identify what's being used appropriately for outdoor furniture and what is not. I think the biggest thing is like, and it seems to be couches or sofas, or not sofas, but recliners or just normal love seat chairs that are, it's like laying out or sitting on the porch.
I mean, I've seen people now put artwork on their front porch, like an art. I mean, that's now becoming common. So I wouldn't necessarily say that is, I mean, and it looks beautiful. I wouldn't necessarily say that is appropriate. Here's one here that says, I think it's got to be massaged. I love the intent. But this right here says outdoor storage of equipment, materials, or furnishings are prohibited on residential property. Likewise, indoor furniture, household appliances, auto parts, or building materials may not be stored outside. So it takes out a little bit of because I can read the message here, and I know what's the aggravation piece, right? So that gives it a little bit more specific. And stored meaning like, hey, if I'm having a garden party and we have, some furniture out just for the day, this says you can't have it out just for the day, right? You can't, it's not intended. Even if I were to rent from like a rental company, some of their furniture isn't intended to be outside in the elements, right? You have to sign and say, hey, I'm not going to place this on a wet ground or whatnot. So I just wonder, and it's my day-to-day profession is why rules are rules,
I
black and
understand.
white. That's why I always go like, how do you break the rule? So I just wonder, I wonder about that, but I definitely support the intent. Absolutely.
It says
But
place
is
are
it
allowed to
street
remain.
Same.
That's
Okay.
why, it covers it. 'cause
See-
it says
Places are allowed to remain
allowed to
elements.
Is
remain.
this street view or backyard or, property wise? Like, what are you talking?
It just says whether outdoors, I mean, that would apply to every little bit. I mean, the same could go in for somebody that's storing a junk vehicle in their backyard, just because you can't see it from the road face, that doesn't mean that the two property owners on the side or behind aren't seeing it and like having an issue with it as well,
And is there an ordinance already in place for junk cars?
Mhm.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. Okay. And I guess just not having enough manpower to get out there frequently enough.
Like I
to-
said, it's come to a point
But
where it
it's
has to be complaint
just
driven
call.
because,
Well, I'm
there's a
calling in the
lot
morning,
that
trust
goes into the everyday work of, not only just her position, but helping out in a lot of other areas as
Mhm.
well.
She's been pulled up.
So, but like I said, this was a conversation piece. I'm more than happy to relay this along to whoever I need to. If there's any wordsmithing, you all would like to do or anything along those lines, before I present it, and I'd be more than happy to receive it and send it back out to you all and, get a little bit general feeler back out. But that's the biggest thing is just, I just wanted to make sure you all had the opportunity to review these as well, per Ms. Judy's request.
Aaron, how long, are we talking a few months before you could get this done? I mean, as far as getting it up to the council?
Probably, because I don't know the necessary channels that the code of ordinance stuff has to go through.
I'm sure it'd have to go to them, I would think.
Oh, yeah, of course. But I think it has to go, like, how for text amendments to our development ordinance has to go before the planning board before it has to go to council.
Council, yeah.
I don't know if there's a body before council that has to review it, whether that be Megan or Aaron just looking over it one day and then move it on to city
Okay.
council. Or,
So we're doing it at a good time because we're already in the mowing season.
yeah, I mean, it's no better time than the present, especially, with growing coming up. 18 inches, I mean, I think that's the only one that really doesn't need much wordsmithing per se. I think that one's kind of good to go as is, but a little bit of, I'll have to do a little bit more looking into the grass clippings piece, because I think there may be some elements that are there, but removing them from the sidewalk in their own is not something that's directly stated in any area, whether it'd probably be somewhere associated with the growth of grass and weeds in that section, and that, all trimmings must be, moved from an area.
Mhm, mhm.
Main thing is to make sure it has teeth, because it won't do us any good if it doesn't have teeth.
Exactly right, yeah. I
And-
definitely know that the grass piece, that definitely was a huge issue for my neighborhood. At one point, we come out measure, it wouldn't necessarily be right at 18, come back the next week, then you have to send the letters. Then eventually the city goes and mows and then bills, it becomes a huge.
And while you're getting a lot of complaints to deal with.
And it's
too.
not just one lot, it's always multiple.
It is.
Situations like that.
A lot of vacant lots that you have to deal with. You'd be very surprised the number of people, I don't know really specifically in this area. But like I said, where I came from before, there's a lot of rental property that people rent out and just don't take care of. They just move out the area and just leave it be. And the property or the renters don't want anything to do with it. They're not gonna clean it up. So it just kind of sits there and hangs out. And then to the point where they just tear it up, and then property owners nowhere to be found, can't get up with them, and it just goes to rot. I mean, there's literally been trees that have grown over houses in the area I was before that they just couldn't get a hold of nobody. And it got to the point where you'd have to spend too much money for people to go out there and cut all the trees down and all the trimming. So it's better to nip it in the bud while you got it. And having to measure 18 inches is quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a heavy, very tall grass.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it too. Mhm.
But I was gonna go back through because I couldn't find anything in the code of ordinance. The only thing that I could find was associated with like,
Well, if we have to present it then to the council, then somebody on the board here will have to present it to the council.
yeah, I'd have to look into that as well. Because I don't know if I would be tasked as a liaison to present it on behalf
that'd
of
be
you all or
perfect.
not.
Yes.
Again, I'd have to check. Don't hold me to that. That's not a guarantee that I'm gonna go there and talk to them.
Mhm.
But I'd be more than happy to if I had to, of course. I could
Okay.
do that. But like I said, I just wanted to make sure you all got a little bit of response, and it seems to be a collective kind of understanding that, 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 are pretty much good to go. But I think the outdoor furniture may need a little bit more teeth per se, or a little bit more fluff to kind of figure out, the whole outdoors piece. Are we really looking at the whole extent of the lot? Are we looking at the front of the lot? As you asked about, in fenced in areas or for temporary outdoor seating of the light.
Did point that out, or allowed to remain in the elements.
Mhm.
So for the sidewalks, is there an ordinance that states, those are city maintained or city property per se? Is there something that says you cannot store anything on city sidewalks or anything of that nature, that this could then be added into that prior?
Yeah, I think there's definitely areas where it could be put into inside of the ordinance. I think the biggest thing was, and I'm trying to get it opened up under the nuisance stuff, because that's where it all falls under. But yeah, there will definitely be areas to where, I guess, is that what you're more or less asking, if there's a space to put it in here, or if there's something already listed out?
Yeah, I just agree with her on, it's just got to have teeth where it can be enforceable.
Yeah, for sure.
I just, sometimes you got to loop it into.
Justin will tweak that. Him and Cameron. will do
Yeah,
it.
I'm, like I said, I'll look over it and make sure that, for one, there's not something already in something that's closely related that could be easily, shown as
Added.
such. But, from looking over it before, there was hardly anything outside of just stormwater stuff. And of course, the growth piece of the grass, nothing really specific to, putting them on the sidewalk. And one could say that a bag of trash on the sidewalk is completely different from grass clippings just sitting on the sidewalk. So the storage piece of something on the sidewalk would be probably something more hard to justify or interpret, coming from the code sense.
Oh, yeah, the drop or deposit leaves, grass clippings, shrubs, or other debris into any.
Yeah, is that the stormwater stuff going into the street?
Yeah, that's what that's
Yes,
for.
ma'am.
That's the intent of this one, yeah.
So that's the thing is, there's that, but how closely can you tie that to the sidewalk? And it doesn't have the teeth in there to say you can't have it on the sidewalk. So I think that's what this is more or less in regards to. I know I think that we've dealt with street clippings. They blew them in the street, and that was the only time that we could come and enforce something on them due to the stormwater stuff.
Right.
So from my understanding is there's nothing that is really concrete that says you can't have them on the sidewalk.
And any fines come to the appearance commission.
I don't know where they go. I'm not entirely too sure where the nuisance fees go. I'm pretty sure they probably just fall into the general fund if I had to assume.
For beautification.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, any more form or discussion associated with it? I mean, me and Justin will look over the number 2 piece, but I think the 18 to 12 is pretty understandable. And the grass clippings is just finding a place to put that to have something definite. And I think that's very, direct and to the point where it just says, you can't have them. That's why I mentioned it probably falls somewhere under the nuisance and grass nuisance piece, that it'd be a little bit of subsection of that probably falling under there. That's just my opinion, of course, even though I probably shouldn't have one. Yeah, I was looking through the garbage or and I don't even think that there's anything associated within our street, sidewalk, and other public places standards either. Like I said, from a general overview and reading through it, there wasn't much that I could find outside of what we have for stormwater.
This one does say public ways, which a sidewalk would be a public way.
Yeah, like I said, there's it's our right of way. But then again, like somebody alluded to, or you may have even said, does that consider any grass or weeds that are hanging over the sidewalk? Is it specific to grass clippings? It's just having something, like you said, with a little bit more chunk to it, where it's a little bit more enforceable. Because I mean, anybody could make an argument. That's the thing, but that's why you have stuff in place to where there's not something that can be argued or interpreted.
They have a hard time enforcing the enclosed porch part. Like, I understand the outside thing, but I don't know about,
Yeah, the
I'm
enclosed.
having a hard time picturing the enclosed porch.
Well, I mean, it's just like a screened in type porch with like mesh or whatever wirings in front of it. I mean, can
Like, I don't really care.
weather stuff, can weather elements still get inside of there? Yeah. mean, what's the difference between having a couch on a normal porch rather than an enclosed porch? All it is a screened in area. I mean, at least I guess you have that slight visual barrier in between to where you may not be able to see from the street inside of that enclosed, but then again, you might be able to. So what separates the two? So I think it's more or less just removing them from any sort of like front space area or visible from the right of way.
Outside is outside, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
that's
really outside is
outdoors.
outside.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
it's enclosed with closed porch with glass. It becomes
Then it's interior.
home space.
Right, then it's interior.
But that's still called an enclosed porch. Screened in porch.
That's the only thing I
Enclosed
think.
porch. Now, you know, that's a different sense, but they're not. I think that's.
And maybe, I mean, the enclosed piece could be left out. I mean, if that's something that y'all see, huh? That's another thing is, we have to get in touch with legal representatives and see what they think as well, because we don't want to be overstepping our boundaries, It all comes from a good place. And I think, something does need to be in here because there are certain instances where it's not appealing at all to ride past structures or something like this that does it. But yeah, you get into a little bit of a pickle when you're starting to differentiate what's associated with enclosed inside the house and what's not. So, I mean, if we just left it to outdoors per se, that remove it from, front yards, backyards, and anything of the like, but anything associated with porch would probably have to stick in to that extent. Just because,
You couldn't say just unless it's on an enclosed porch or with the exception of on a enclosed.
It could be.
porch Or
I mean, I think
Something
that'd
like
be like
that.
the only,
you're gonna have these people down here
You're
marching.
gonna have to
beside
let Justin work with Cameron on this. They know. You guys are gonna have to. look at
tweak
this.
it a little bit.
You
just
are.
so-
for sure. No, I mean,
so,
that's, I just wanted to make sure, you all got to see it before I took my pen to it
Well,
and started
appreciate-
doing
yeah,
the thing. And
absolutely.
it will come back and, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I knew nothing
And
about
it's not like, it's not gonna be a lot. I mean, I'll literally, we talked about it for a little bit to an extent, and I think some of the same stuff came up was, the enclosed porch piece and things along those lines, but I'd rather you all hit that out before rather than me coming out and telling y'all this is what we think, because that's not very productive. I'd rather y'all have a good open discussion before I even say anything, because it's not my place to do it in the first place until I have to go and present.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. Any other discussion?
I'm good on it. If y'all want. I'll run this through up the grapevine and I'll be back in touch in regards to timeline, I guess, for it. I'll review it and Justin will review it with me and I'll talk to admin and see what we got. What's the timeline for it? I mean, relatively speaking, if it doesn't have to go before planning board, it'd probably be 1 or 2 months, depending on who gets to review it before the time and how long that's going to take. Shouldn't be too long. I think the longest part probably getting it into the code ordinance, because getting up a municipal code is apparently a pain. But it'll still be in there. We'll still be enacted. That's the biggest thing. All right. Well, if you are good with that, we'll move on to the next little piece. Coming up springtime, I will add on one thing to this after this as well, because I forgot to write it down on here, but we're coming back into the residential appearance era, running into the spring. And didn't you win it in the spring, Miss Cheryl?
I won it in the fall.
In the
Oh,
fall.
wonderful. Well, and I
Good
think
for
this
you.
is the biggest thing is, for one thing, to stay consistent and continue doing this throughout all the seasons and, kind of getting that community involvement. And the longer it's established and ran, season to season, the more output it's going to get, the more input of, folks, nominations are going to come in, I think. So I think the biggest thing is for me is making sure this stays consistent, because that only increases the outreach that you'll get. And seeing that it's, actually a seasonal thing from now on, people may be a little bit more active to do that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that, we're coming up, what's the date here? May 9th or when nominations are due. So we still got about like 2 months before we have to start doing any nomination voting or things along those lines, or looking at it. But I just wanted to make sure, y'all kind of had it a little bit on the forefront that this is coming up, and that's something that we'll be looking at closer towards the end of May in that meeting. And so just to keep your eyes peeled in the meantime as well, If you're riding past and you see, oh my gosh, those flowers out there are so beautiful, they did a great job planting this spring, then just, write it in, nominate it down on behalf of you all. I'm not going to limit however many you all want to nominate. I'm more than happy to look at 15 houses if you want to put them in there. But at the same time, I think another thing is it shouldn't all come from you all as well. I think the engagement piece and getting it out and word of mouth from you all as well is like, hey, we're just going to start doing this from now on and now on. Start looking at houses while you're riding around and kind of send your nominations in to me. And we'll, of course, do a Facebook push of it as well. And everything along those lines to try and get as much output that we can. But like I said, I just wanted to bring this up on your radar and let's have a little bit of discussion. As long as y'all are wonderfully fine with continuing, the residential appearance stuff on a seasonal basis, if that's something y'all want to continue doing.
Yeah, I like that.
Sweet.
These dates, I know this is from 2019, so these dates are.
Yeah, I think these dates may be a little skewed, either that or I didn't change the date at the top.
Okay.
I thought the dates were the prior year, but I mean, they still work for this calendar year.
Yeah, I mean, so May 9th is a Monday, the second Monday of the month. I mean, it could be pushed back a week and be the first Monday of May. So depending on a lot of things per se, these dates may be changed depending on meeting dates and other things that haven't quite been discussed yet. That's kind of, and I'll talk a little bit more after we're done with this. But that's just one of the things, like I said, want to get it put on your radar. Yes, ma'am. I think they're all Mondays at least. So it'd be like the end of business on Monday. So you got people who last minute want to go out over the weekend to do something. They're not trying to scramble around.
Because I wrote them in up here, didn't I?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly.
Last year.
And one thing I don't have on here after the residential appearance is there's a spring cleanup, I think, that's associated with the appearance commission that I didn't really note on. So that's something that we'll probably talk about next month maybe, and kind of getting that organized and picking out a date, I guess, when we can all go out and pick up some litter around the area. Like I said, I need to do a little bit more research into it. I know we talked about it last month. But coming up, definitely for sure, probably sometime in April or May, that'd probably get kicked off. I have to see if any involvement's associated with Public Works and what all they have to do. So I'd rather get a little bit more information from them and then present y'all with a little bit more. But again, wanted to put that on your radar. That is something else coming up in the springtime here. And that is about all I got for new business, coming from me at least. So
We will now hear from updates from the city council. Are there any?
I don't really have any to speak of other than, we will be coming up on a new fiscal year for the council of the city. So we'll be working up budget requests. So, if you guys have anything to input there, you might want to let us know. Other than that, I don't really have anything. Unless you guys have questions for me.
well, thank you so much for coming. Are you going to be our liaison from here on out?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Well, we're happy to have you back. Hey, I didn't get to put the nameplate on there and we're missing the middle seat, but we'll get that filled and hopefully the two other seats filled as well. Or no, one other seat, because you're one of the two. But hopefully, in the future, if we can get some people in and I guess get all that stuff taken care of. I don't know the process they're going through with it. I know it has to come from council, I believe, so they'll get more information on that. So I'll open up for anything else anybody wants to talk about. I will start by saying, moving forward in the future, I'm all for, information and getting information to everybody. But my biggest thing that I always try and harp on is, the open meeting laws. And, when I send out agendas and things along those lines, I always ask not to reply all and things along those lines because, the channels of proper information being flown, like given out is listed in a lot of different municipality codes, how it has to go in open meeting laws and stuff along those lines. So I'll just ask, on behalf of everybody inside the city and everything, is that if there is any information that wants to be sent out to members of the appearance commission, that it come through either, Mary or myself, or at least, a body that's not associated with the board. So it's not looking like there's discussion outside of the open meeting. So that way, I can at least get it out to y'all there if it's something as small as just a general note. Or if it's an item that, you have to talk about for a next meeting, I could be like, if you said, Cameron, I think we should talk about this next month. You send that to me and I'd read it. And then I'd be like, okay, we'll bring this up at the appearance commission. And I'll be like, okay, on behalf of probably under this time now, on behalf of whoever wanted to speak about this, and I'll bring it to the commission and we'll have that discussion here and there rather than kind of the intertwining of, emails back and forth. Because I think the biggest thing is a lot of things get kind of lost in translation or transition through that kind of process, and don't want anybody to feel like they're left out of anything. And I think the easiest way is just to work through one individual party inside the city, and then we blast it out to you all. So my inbox is always open. My phone line is always open. If y'all want to sit and talk about anything, and I'll jot it down and we'll have it on a list to speak about. Or like I said, I can send updates out about anything if it's something quick and easy. But if it's something that needs to be brought in front of the whole board for future discussion, like maybe you want to make policy changes, like Ms. Judy sending me the amendment over and bringing it in front of you all is, a prime example of, how open meetings and things should operate. She had a great idea and she brought it to me and I brought it to you all. And now we're going to try and enact what she provided and move it into the code of ordinance. So it's just following those proper procedures and kind of keeping you all in line. So I don't have to bring a lawyer in or anything and have to have a discussion with a law person or something of the like from the school of government. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just making sure we're staying within those confinements. So just try, if you can, to run stuff through me or Mary or a liaison or somebody through staff, and somehow to get rotated over to somebody in here, and we'll continue and present that information. It happens all the time. It's really easily, I could probably do it if I was sitting in the same position, because it's so easy just to send an email out. But like I said, when you're dealing with local government and the different policies that are associated with it, there's a lot of times that it's better to just kind of go through this rather than have to worry about it on the back end. So that's about all I have. Outside of, of course, everybody's aware of what's coming up April 1st. I'm pretty sure all of y'all signed up to be on the appearance commission / tree board. Is that correct? You all gonna hang out with me? That's why, like I said, another reason why we held off on the appointment of the chair position is because we're literally gonna become basically a new board next month, and we'd have to do it all over again if we were gonna do it tonight. So, as we are acting as the appearance commission right now, not the appearance commission / tree board, so it wouldn't have held over if we would have made an appointment anyways, unfortunately. At least that's what I got from admin folks. But then again, like I said, if there's anything else y'all would love to talk about, I'm open for it right now for any discussion.
Any non-agenda items you would like to discuss? None? Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
You gotta make the motion.
Motion?
Well, she asked for a motion to adjourn. I moved on the
Oh, I
motion.
thought you seconded it. You got.
No, she said so moved.
I
Oh, I
moved
thought you
on her
said
motion.
second.
She just needs a second.
Oh, I thought she asked for a motion.
I'll second.
There you go, sure.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Wonderful.
Meeting adjourned 7:03 PM.
As of right now, that's a really good question. Like I said, if we want to move to the slot of the tree board on the first Monday of the month, then it might be the first Monday of the month. That's understanding that, I know you have reservations with meeting at this time, and I do appreciate you being able to come tonight. But I mean, how would the first Monday of the month work out?
It's fine.
Is that better? I mean, is 6 o'clock good for everybody on the first Monday of the month? If we I know they met at 7. I try not to meet at 7 too late on in the afternoon, because, and it may be a little bit selfish, but I also have to drive back to Durham. So I'm not, we have to stay here till 12 o'clock some nights on planning board meetings. So I'd rather keep it as smooth and simple as possible.
No way.
Yeah.
No way,
All
Cameron.
my old fields folks, they love us up here.
The Arbor Day thing, like, is this just gonna be me and you thing for Arbor Day?
What do you mean, Arbor Day? No, that's why I said it's come April 1st. That's why I got Brandy here to speak about it tonight, is because this is gonna be a collective thing from the Appearance Commission / Tree Board moving forward. Only thing I ask is that if you do need any information from anybody, that you run it through me and I'll get it and then I'll pass it back along. You know, I'm more than happy to help out with whatever Arbor Day Tree Month thing that y'all need, but it's just going through the channels of procedure, and not kind of overstepping the boundary of the liaison to go out and get some. Mr. Tim that was your thing, is he was the kind of liaison, but I mean,
So, well, how do we, at this point, since we're not combined yet, could we just volunteer, and who would we volunteer to? Okay, I would like to be a part of the planning. I know we'll merge at some point, but not yet. So
Well-
would it be appropriate for me to.
Wait until April.
I mean, how
1st.
much more has to really go into it? Because I'm not asking that from a rude sense.
Like, we've been doing a lot.
And that's the thing, is because y'all have just been on the tree board now, you know, and I mentioned this is, you know, we're acting as the Appearance Commission right now. And we have to put that hat on, and how we're gonna have to act in future meetings as well, is you're gonna have to take your Appearance Commission hat off and put your tree board hat on. Right now, you two are the only ones that have tree board hats. You know, until the combination comes April 1st. And I hate that, because I want to be of more help on the tree board aspect, but I have no authority over it at the moment because it's not in my hands. It's still in the hands of a single tree board, and it's not combined.
You have to wait till next Friday, basically.
So can we not
As
have
of
a
next
meeting
Friday,
the
I will
first,
see who-
like
Yeah,
April
we have a
4th,
meeting.
that first Monday, and then this way if we were official, then we.
Yeah, and that would probably, like I said, I'll ask tomorrow about changing to this time slot for the first Monday of the month. I just wanted to make sure again that that was cool with everybody. And then from there, when we're the tree board, then we can go into a little bit further discussion of what's happening on in the tree board. So let's shoot to try and meet with the Appearance Commission / Tree Board coming up on the first Monday of the month. And from there, let's hash everything out, you know, let's, and that's what I was saying as well, is
April 1st is when stuff starts.
exactly, and I understand that, and I completely understand. But the thing is
So
you have,
April 1st, I'm sorry.
no,
since-
you can, go ahead.
Since we're agreeing to the first Monday, will that, do you have to have that approved?
Yes, ma'am. So I'll have to, well, I don't know how much I have to have it approved. I just got to make sure that admin's good with it. I have to make sure
So
that
that's
Megan and Aaron are
That
good
the
with it.
building can be accessible.
Because that's the biggest thing is, you know, there's a lot of things that go on inside of here. Different things in and out, and we're not trying to overstep on anybody. I mean, even outside of this building, if there's a meeting at this time slot in another area, you don't want to kind of impede on that because that limits public access to a meeting. So we have to create our time slots. And since the tree board's no longer being used in that slot, then it's vacant per se. So I'll see, and they'll send something out tomorrow, hopefully, if I can get in touch with somebody and kind of further discuss that. Well, since we held on a little bit more discussion, I don't know if we ever got the full stuff from the adjournment, so we'll try and adjourn one more time, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, because I want to make sure that this is recorded like in the minutes, because this is further discussion outside the adjournment. So if we'll just do it one more time.
And I second.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Even though it was only 5 minutes.
Thank you.